This is TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And there may be someone out there that may be considering starting a podcast of their own, or they probably already started a podcast and they're just trying to see some of the steps they can take to make their podcast even better. Well, I encourage you to check out the SOTS seminar that will be coming up. This seminar will be designed to help individuals that are starting a podcast or have already started a podcast, giving them the information and tools that they need in order to help their podcast grow. So take part in the SOTS podcast seminar. For more information, email the State of the Saints podcast at stateofthesaints@gmail.com. That's stateofthesaints@gmail.com. Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Want to ask that everybody hit that like button as you file in. Thank you so much for all your love and your support. I really do appreciate that. On this edition, we're going to be talking about head coach Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen trying to shake things up. I mean, maybe. We're going to be talking about that. But I want to give a special shout out to everybody in the chat right now that, that's here. Lewis, Dale, Tano, Trav, Chosen, Doughboy, Mario, Brandon, man. We got Jerry in here and so many others. Thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate that. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about head coach Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has been the Saints head coach going into the regular season. They played 4 games, and as of right now, the Saints are 1-3. And you have a lot of members of the Who Dat Nation, including myself, that is looking at Dennis Allen a little bit differently after 4 games, especially since some of the things that I've alluded to on last show is the fact that you're actually seeing a guy who actually inherited a team that was pretty doggone good, and you can make an argument to say that the pieces that they added made the team even better. And then it even hurts even more that you're watching teams that have struggled last season find new head coaches, and they're having a better run at it than Dennis Allen, who inherited a team after Sean Payton stepped down, not fired, but stepped down. He chose to leave the team. So you would expect the New Orleans Saints to be in a better position, but as of right now, they're dead last in the NFC South. And some of the plays and practices that we see on the field, you can tell why they're a 1-3 team. As of today, as of the making of this podcast, the Saints are a terrible football team. Not to say that they can't turn the corner, not to say that they can't right the ship, but, it just comes a time as a Saints fan, you just get tired of watching the same thing over and over again, and you get kind of tired of hearing the same thing at press conferences. The reason why I decided to come up with the name when it comes to Dennis Allen, I call him Captain Cleanup, because every time he goes to the podium and the Saints getting offside penalties, they turn over the football, he's talking about cleaning it up. Clean up this, clean up that.
Clean up, everybody, everywhere. Clean up, everybody, do your share.
I mean, basically, that's what I think about every time I hear him talking about this. Basically, you know what I'm saying? Like, clean up this, clean up that. It's always time to clean up. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I mean, after 4 games, you would think that you wouldn't be dealing with the same situations. But head coach Dennis Allen decided to kind of shake some things up, right? He goes out and he signs a very well-respected safety in Chris Harris Jr. Chris Harris Jr., a guy that's been an all-pro. He was all-pro back in 2016. He has over 20 interceptions in his career. He was one of the best players on that Denver Broncos team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. He played alongside Bradley Roby there. So, adding him, and then also you decide to bring back Kevin White, to special teams, which I know a lot of people have their reservations about Kevin White. As a receiver, he can't catch a cold and 40 below zero, but he was a really good special teams guy. He was a really good gunner, and a lot of people were putting his abilities and effort up there with special teams captain JT Gray. So, adding these guys back, I guess that was a way to kind of shake things up. They released DeMarcus Fields, the guy that was responsible for giving up that fake punt. So the Saints seem like they're trying to shake some things up. But as an onlooker and a fan of this team, I have to admit I'm not really excited. I mean, that's not really the changes that I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for more accountability when it comes to some of these bigger stars. I mean, DeMarcus Fields, in some cases, I forgot he was even on the team. And I don't expect DeMarcus Fields to be a deciding factor if the Saints are going to win or not. The biggest issue I have is some of your star players out there that are putting the ball on the ground. The guys that we respect and the guys that we expect for them to be able to do some things, they're not doing anything at all. So you have to look at the leadership of Dennis Allen, a.k.a. Captain Cleanup.
Clean up, everybody everywhere. Clean up, everybody do your share.
I mean, you got to look at Dennis Allen at this particular point. But I'm not going to have a long opening statement. I'm going to go ahead and get to the questions and your comments. We'll just take it from there. TJ says he ain't the answer. Well, he's not looking like it as of right now. I mean, it's early in the season. You can right the corner. But as of right now, he's not looking like the answer. Jerry, something I've been wanting to ask, how in the hell you became a moderator for the official Saints YouTube channel? That's when you watch every episode, you comment, and people see you doing that. So, man, shouts out to Jerry, man. Need a new head coach. Too early for that, but I can understand why people, kind of getting off their wagon. Another day of being cheeks. We not terrible. Look, your record is what you say. I mean, your record is what it is, right? You're a 1-3 team. So we can talk about, this team is not bad. I agree with that. They're not as bad as their record indicates, but it is what it is. You are what your record says you are. And, we gotta be honest about this. They're not playing good football. And you're looking based on what they're doing right now versus some of the top teams in the league. They're not even close to where they should be. TJ got jokes. Swiping, no swiping. Jerry laughing. He is not strong enough to be a head coach. I mean, look, you got to be able to not only relate to players on a personal level and on a professional level, but you got to be able to, be able to strike a fire underneath these players. And I'm not seeing it. I guess one good thing is, TJ, is that at least they know our losses are self-inflicted. Now it's time to do something about it. Callaway even said everyone knows we start slow on offense, so it's out there. Look, all I'm saying is, Chosen, I'm just tired of these same old excuses, man. And it's hard for me to accept that when I'm watching brand new coaches go to teams and these guys don't know these players from a can of paint. And then all of a sudden, like, they can find some levels of success. They can look good, but we have to wait and see for the New Orleans Saints on a team and coaches that have been here, that know these guys, that have swiped the same key card they've been swiping for I don't know how long. So I just don't understand, like, how is it that all those other coaches that can come into these organizations that suck, that are not very good, and then you can turn around and they make some moves, a few moves here, a few moves there, and then all of a sudden, they got a better win-loss record. So it's just kind of hard for me to accept that. And I understand it's around the locker room. You're looking around the locker room and guys like, oh, the morale ain't low. We beating ourselves. Like, all that kind of stuff is fine, right? But at the end of the day, all this stuff right here is, to me, it's just white noise. I mean, you're saying that you're beating yourself. You've been saying that since week 2, and yet you're still doing the same things that get you beat. So it's kind of hard for me to accept that, especially when I'm looking around the landscape of the NFL, right? I think that is very important for us not to just be so focused on New Orleans Saints that we don't really check out the landscape or, of the NFL, like looking at other teams and some of the practices that they have. Now, I'm not expecting for the New Orleans Saints to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is a genius when it comes to offensive innovation, but I do want them to be pretty consistent because when it comes down to it, the Saints historically have been a really good football team. And these guys have been on the staff helping this team be considered one of the best. So I just don't understand how can those other coaches find success and be able to relate to these players. And they only knew these players for like maybe a cup of coffee. But yet Dennis Allen, who has been around this organization, back and forth, since 2006, you can't light a fire under these guys. These guys are familiar with you. It's just hard for me to accept that. Go Saints for life says true. Duke says TJ Dalton will get the start and get back in the groove. The more game time reps he gets, especially once Kamara plays and the O-line holds their blocks again. Well, look, this could be bad news for Jameis Winston. I'm going to say that again. This is going to be bad news for Jameis Winston. Now, Andy Dalton did a relatively good job at being able to run the offense against the Minnesota Vikings. If he doubles down versus the Seattle Seahawks and he has a better outing, it's going to be very, very hard for the head coaches and the coaching staff to consider Jameis Winston coming right back, especially if they're starting to see improvements at the quarterback position for Andy Dalton. And even though I think Jameis would never want to admit this out loud, I think a part of that is one of the main reasons why he decided to go out there and play in spite of his circumstances. So I want to see a better outing by the offense, but this can be pretty detrimental, pretty detrimental for Jameis Winston, because how can you go back to him if Andy Dalton is running the offense the way that you want it to look? So, if Andy Dalton goes out there and he plays well and he plays better than he did last week, and you start to see improvements there, it's going to be hard for Jameis Winston to get his job back, and it's going to be a little bit of a quarterback controversy, to be honest. That show is cringy. What are we talking about? What show? What show we talking about? TJ Dalton will get the start and get back in the groove. The more game time reps he gets, especially already read this, I think. Let me see. Ingram had been kind of washed this season. I mean, how has Ingram been kind of washed? I don't understand that. Let me pull up his stats. All right, let me see if Mark Ingram been washed. And then on top of that, you got to take into account Mark Ingram is not the starting running back. Okay, I mean he's not the starting running back. Alvin Kamara is. He just been out. So let's see. He has 29 attempts for the 128 yards, 1 touchdown, and has a 4.4. So we'll just round it off to about 4.5 yards a carry. I don't know about being washed. All I'm saying is, I'm looking at like some of his stats in these games. He's ran the ball relatively well for the most part. I just think that it just gets overshadowed at the fact that, he had those 2 fumbles. And not to mention, the Saints been playing behind the 8 ball for the last 3 weeks. So they have to find themselves playing catch up. So they're throwing the ball way more than they're actually running it, because they're making all these mistakes early to a point where they're kind of like getting themselves out of the game, and they have to throw themselves back into the game. So you're not seeing Mark Ingram a bigger sample size because they're not giving themselves enough time to run the football. I feel like based on his offense, it's hard for me to really decipher and determine if he's, having a bad season, because he's not getting enough attempts, because the offense around the third or fourth quarter is throwing the ball all over the place because they down by 2 and 3 touchdowns. So I can't like just completely fault Mark Ingram for that. Like maybe if I don't know, maybe if they actually had a balanced attack and we were seeing like some of the things that they were doing, maybe we can have like enough sample size to make that determination. But as of right now, how can you blame any of the Saints running backs right now? They basically are fighting for their lives to stay in the game third and fourth quarter, so they're throwing the ball. The last 2 games, I think Jameis Winston played, he threw the ball 40 times because he was throwing the ball. He was trying to get these guys back into the game. So how can you really have like any type of how can you have enough sample size to decide like who's good and who's bad on his team at running back? The game before when he played Tampa, he had 10 carries for 60 yards. All right, so and then this last game, he actually got hurt in the middle of the game. That's the reason why if you looked at Murray, he was able to get a little bit more carries, and he had like a little bit of an injury, so that probably was prohibiting him to be able to like really do some of the things he's doing. But I'm not going to just say that Mark Ingram just been having a bad season. They ain't been running the ball enough. Who's starting the Red Rifle or J-Bo? Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is starting again. Let's shake Hardy all punt returns. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I seen Deontay Hardy tweet the other day. He was talking about, keep that same energy when I decide to turn it around. But look, I hope that he does turn it around. But what I'm seeing right now is a guy that quit. I'm seeing a quitter. I'm seeing a guy that's not really giving it his all. I'm seeing a guy who's really just kind of pushing himself to try to do something. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he's not making the right decisions. I don't know what his motive is. Maybe he's trying to motivate himself because maybe the Saints don't want to pay him, and maybe he just feels like, oh, I'm gonna save myself. But he's not the same guy. Even he would have to admit that. I don't know if he's pressing or not. I don't know if he's just disinterested. But if I am Dennis Allen, I'm talking about shaking things up, that's one place I look, because the special teams has been trash. Okay, I don't feel like there's any spot on special team, for the exception of JT Gray, that should be solidified. I think that you need to look around your team and see who you actually have and what you're asking them to do. And I wouldn't put it past Dennis Allen possibly considering one of these guys like Shaheed or Kirk Merritt to be returning kicks. Because I guarantee you, if you pick any one of those gentlemen, they'll probably want to play a little bit more harder, and I think you'll see a little bit more effort. Like, you can't get mad at people because they're calling you out. Like, people are calling you out because they want to see you do better, and they're calling you out because they know that you can do better. But the way that he's playing, I mean, he's playing like a mere shell of himself. Like, out of all the things that have been going on with the Saints, I think he's been the biggest disappointment in my opinion, because he's such a special player. And he's not playing like it. We got to make better plays and decisions. Look, I just think that it's all about execution. I think that you have to be a more disciplined team. A lot of time, like, what we're not paying attention to, and I want the Who Dat Nation to do so, is the fact that they're actually making plays. The problem is when they make the plays, it's a false start. It's illegal hands to the face. It's something that's prohibiting them from being able to convert. Like, I think about that game against Carolina. I think about how that game could have went. Like, if you go back and you look at that first drive, they was clicking. But, Michael Thomas got a first down, but it ended up being a flag. Mark Ingram got a first down, but it ended up being a flag. So they found themselves in the red zone, but because of the penalties, they ended up pushing themselves out of the red zone and even out of field goal range. So with that, they're making plays. It just those self-inflicted wounds that are prohibiting them from being able to reach the ultimate goal, and which is converting on third down and getting into the end zone. So they're doing some things right. It's just they keep on, I keep on saying this, but they're shooting themselves in the foot every single time they get a little bit level of success. So they take like one step forward, they're taking 3 and 4 steps back. You're not going to win like that. You're not going to win. I agree, it's frustrating to watch, especially when you know what the problem is, but not addressing it. I mentioned this about Dennis Allen a while back. Now it's time for him to be a coach, a real coach. Well, look, you can't fake it to make it, Chosen. You are who you are. Like, it's hard for people to try to, wrap their minds around a new change, right? Because, if they see you a certain way, it's kind of hard for them to see you another way. Like, I look at, I'll use this for example. For all my people out there, probably grew up in certain neighborhoods, right? You know what I'm saying? You probably grew up in a certain neighborhood. Everybody know you. They probably know you for a certain way. You probably get older, you know what I'm saying? You get a little education, you get a nice little job, and, your family is doing fine. And then you go back to that same neighborhood. Now, you might be a captain of industry. You might got your own business. You might, heck, be working at a business that pays you very handsomely, or, a really good career. And then you go back to that neighborhood and everybody just kind of see you. It's kind of hard for them to see you differently because, they grew up with you. They know you. They know your tendencies. They see how you react. So it's kind of hard for them to see you in a certain way. So I think that Dennis Allen has to be very, very careful at how he presents himself, because it can come off as disingenuous, chosen. Like if that's not who you are, that's just not who you are. Like I'm not expecting you, like, if you came in not getting into guys' faces and then all of a sudden you start getting into guys' faces, it might rub people the wrong way, because they're like, man, who you trying to be? Because we ain't never used to seeing you like this. But what I think he needs to do is he needs to put a point of emphasis on there. Now, that's something that every coach needs to do, and I think that it can be completely understandable no matter what type of coaching style you have, no matter if you got that taskmaster type approach or even if you're a player's coach. If you're talking about addressing obvious things that are detrimental to team success, I mean, if a player has any type of respect for themselves or the team as a whole, they're going to try to fix those things. And I don't think you need to like change your personality. I just think they need to put more emphasis on that. And also, if the guys are not doing it, then go find somebody else. I mean, this is what the NFL is all about. How many times do teams go into the offseason or they go to training camp, OTAs, and they're talking about open competition? So if the job is not being done, then players need to understand no matter where they are on a totem pole, things need to change. And if competition is something that we need in order to help this cause, then I say they need to just fall in line. OBJ will never come and play with Winston. Saints need a legit quarterback, number one. Look, first of all, the truth, I can care less if OBJ comes to the New Orleans Saints. That's the least of our problems. Man, my feelings about Odell Beckham Jr. are simple. Like, just go sign with somebody, man. Who nobody needs no Tanker Tank Tuck parade with confetti and fireworks. Like, just sign with a team, man. This isn't like you coming out of Newman High School and you're trying to get recruited by LSU or Alabama and everybody like trying to tell you how great you are. That just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'm always a fan of individuals that know that they're good, but they carry themselves like a professional. Like, he wants people to grovel at his feet and want people to feel like, oh, we just need you so bad, OBJ, so he can walk into that field like the superstar that he thinks that he is, which he is a superstar. I give him that. But, man, I'm not really big on the ego stroking, especially when your team doesn't really necessarily need your services. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Saints don't need his services. I feel like, to be honest with you, I feel like the three wide receivers that the Saints have are better than him anyway. I feel like Chris Olave is better than he is. I feel like Jarvis Landry is better than he is. And I feel like Michael Thomas is better than he is. And not to say that Odell Beckham Jr. is not a good receiver, but I just feel like the big plays are few and far in between. I feel like he really kind of thin-skinned. I feel like you can easily get into his head. All that whining and complaining from, that he had back in the day when he was having those battles with Josh Norman. I don't think those things just kind of change overnight. I just think that the Saints wide receiver group, I think the guys that they have are better than he is. I'm serious. Like, I would not trade any one of those guys that are 1, 2, and 3 at wide receiver respectively. You know what I'm saying? Like, with all due respect, I would not trade any one of those guys for Odell Beckham Jr. Seriously. I mean, I like him, but I'm not the biggest fan of him, because I just feel like he more hyped than anything. I think that Sunday Night Football game when he caught that one-hand snag just kind of catapulted his career. And it's like everybody just basically allows him to live off that. Like, he had a couple games, but when was the last time you really just seen Odell Beckham like just take over a game? Like, even like in some cases, like, as much as we talk about Antonio Brown, but when he got into Tampa, I can pick out a few games where he actually like took over a game. I remember he had like maybe like 13 catches or something like that. Like I seen moments where he was taking over a game. I have yet to see like Odell Beckham in a game where, he was playing for the Browns or even playing for the Rams where he just took over the game. I seen him make a catch or two, but I wouldn't trade any of these Saints wide receivers for Odell Beckham Jr. I feel like every last one of those guys on the Saints team are better than he is. When Peyton says things going to get cleaned up, it got cleaned up. No one fears the coaches, especially Carmichael. Nah, I don't think they fear him either. I agree with you on that one, Nixon. Exactly. We can't sit here and say plays aren't being made. Olave went for 140 in that Carolina game, but family undisciplined football will destroy the greatest of teams. yeah, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how much talent you possess. If you're continuously shooting yourself in the foot and you continue to put yourself behind the 8 ball, then guess what? It doesn't matter how good you are. You're going to lose games. And plays are being made. I just think that our frustrations allow us to be, our frustrations allow the good plays to be overshadowed, if that makes sense. Like, there are some good plays in between, but we're so ticked off that the Saints are down by 10, or we're so upset that a fumble got returned for a touchdown, or, an interception put, them close, the other team close into the red zone. We're so upset at those particular moments that we just basically just kind of suspend our mind only to the bad and not really just focus on the good, which is understandable because, when you feel like the bottom is dropping out, man, you're not looking at, oh, man, a piece of this, bottom didn't fall out. It still got the little bit of the corner left. Like, we don't look at the optimism of it all. We look at the negative things, but they have some good plays within the game. But we don't pay that much attention because how undisciplined the team is. TJ, do you think penalties is a sign of a team that lacks discipline? Absolutely. I mean, I think you look no further than that. When you have all those penalties, now some of those penalties we all know, we all know when it comes to these referees, but a lot of the things, like, my biggest issue is if you know the referees aren't going to give you an inch, why give them justification? Why allow them to be a part of the game? But, that's what happens. I agree. Saints are not a balanced team when it comes to passing and running the ball. No identity on offense. Plays are very predictable. Well, I just think they plan not to lose instead of playing to win. They soft to me. I don't feel bad about saying that. I don't care who don't like it. This is a soft football team, and I don't think that the players are soft. I think they're coach soft. And by what I mean by that is I just feel like these guys are just trying to do the right thing, right? They're trying to be an upstanding citizen. They ain't trying to bother nobody, right? They just, it's like when people are like, man, I ain't trying to bother nobody. I just go inside and I close my door and I turn my air conditioner on. That's kind of like who it is. They ain't trying to bother nobody. They ain't trying to, rattle the fence. They ain't trying to do none of these things. Right. That's what it is. Like, I don't see any aggression. Like, I don't see plays that, you get fired up about, I like going for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and inches. Like, trust a guy like Taysom Hill. Like, Taysom Hill most of the time leans forward, and get a first down. How about a quarterback sneak instead of like 4th and 1? Oh, punt team. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Like, go for it. Like show some type of fire. I just feel like they just try to do everything by the book. And sometimes you got to be a little bit of aggressive, and you got to allow your team to believe that you believe in them. But I just think that when you not going for it and you're being conservative and you're running for it on first down 60% of the time, and you're running and throwing on second down about 70%, like, it's just you're just basically playing not to lose, but you end up losing anyway because you're so conservative. Like, nobody fears you. Like, nobody fears the offense, and maybe they would fear the offense if they actually like show some level of aggression. Like, I wouldn't recommend this, but when Mississippi State played LSU, you noticed that Coach Mike Leach was going for it on 4th down. He went for it like 3-4 times in a row. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably thought, it wasn't the smartest idea because the Tigers stopped them more times than not. But guess what? That gives his team enough knowledge to know that our coach trusts us. So we need to go out there and make him look good for calling this. But all this conservative play calling, like, that is something like, that bothers me. Being afraid of doing stuff like that. That just, I don't know. I have not a clue. I have not an absolute. Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah, you can't coach scared. You can't coach scared. That's just all there is to it. Dang, bro. That's where I'm at as well, TJ. I really like OBJ, but he's a little past done, especially with the injuries. I love wide receiver corps we had. It just needs time. OBJ miss hometown hero is Jarvis. Well, look, I don't think that his services are not required anywhere. I do feel like he has something left in the tank. I mean, I don't think that this ACL injury is affecting like the way that he actually plays. But I will say that the Saints just don't need him. I mean, I'm not trading anybody. I'm not getting rid of anybody to give OBJ some playing time, and that includes like guys like Callaway. You know, I wouldn't, and you know, like if you start getting down to the 5th and the 6th wide receiver, like that's when you only might get one target. So unless like somebody gonna be out for the rest of the season of some level of significance, or maybe even 2 guys, that's when you probably go there. But I don't understand. Like, you talking about he got a whole tour going. He gonna start with the Giants, then he gonna go to the Bucks, and I'm like, man, like if I'm the GM, you can skip over me. Like it's rather you want to come or you don't, right? I ain't trying to make no big deal out of it. Does it matter that the refs have been horrible each and every game? No, it shouldn't. Because here's the thing. I don't want to get to a point where we just constantly blaming the refs over and over and over again. Yes, these refs are terrible, but sometimes we just have to look at the fact that at one particular time, and more times than not, when you looked at the New Orleans Saints and you looked at those players, like the Saints were beating teams by 2 and 3 touchdowns. So, the referees wasn't even a part of the game. But when you start to like make all these different mistakes and allow your opponent to get into the game or give them some ounce of hope, like that's when it's a problem for me. That's when it becomes a problem for me. The landlord says the king of Nintendo is here. Mario. What's happening? We need to this win Sunday in a major way. I think if they don't win Sunday, man, it's gonna be rough. TJ, great fit for OBJ. What's a great fit for OBJ? You talking about the Buccaneers or the Saints? I think it's a terrible fit for the Saints. Maybe the Buccaneers. I mean, even with the Bucks, I don't feel like he wouldn't fit. I mean, I think Mike Evans is well enough. Chris Godwin is gonna, he's not where he needs to be because of the injuries, but he's still, a quality guy. And then you got like Cameron Brate and stuff like that. And Julio Jones, he can catch a couple passes every now and then. So, I mean, I don't know. TJ, you mentioned Hardy being your biggest disappointment, and in my opinion, is Pete. All these years with this team and system, he's acting like it's his first time play calling. I expect it from DA, not Pete Carmichael. Well, I don't know, because I didn't expect the Saints to take a step back defensively because of Dennis Allen. I expect for them to be this way because that's his calling card. That's what got him the attention to be able to become a head coach. So I expected the defense to look good. And in most cases, like if you have a defensive-minded coach, their defense is going to be pretty stout. But when I'm talking about as far as play, as a player, I mean, yeah, the play calling leaves a lot to be desired, but I'm talking about as far as a player. He's the biggest disappointment in my opinion. Honestly, we need to bring back CJ Spiller. Real talk, man, for what? Bring back CJ Spiller.
Hell no. To the no. Hell to the no.
Man, that man did absolutely nothing except score one touchdown against the Cowboys in overtime. That's the only thing he did. Besides that, he just took up space. That's it, and tried to run to the sidelines, and he can never turn the corner. OBJ is better than Julio Jones to me. He is at this particular stage of their careers. Yes, he is better than Chosen Kingston. You see my intro. Let's see. We need to sign him, but a healthy OBJ is better than Callaway, Hardy, and Smith. But he won't help the offense get out of his own way, being careless with the ball and penalties. Well, look, we don't need him to sign. Yeah, he is, as a wide receiver, he is better than Callaway, Hardy, and Traquan Smith. But if you look at those guys, when Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave are all healthy, these guys aren't getting any targets. Like Callaway only had like one target before the game last week, and that was that touchdown. He caught that one-hand snag when Jameis just kind of threw the ball up there. So the plays were few and far in between. So if he falls into that 4th, 5th category, he's not going to play, or he's going to be upset because he only got one target and one look. And the Saints are already having difficulties when it comes to the offensive innovation and play calling to try to get the guys that can make plays the ball. So I don't think that this is a good fit. Yeah, thanks, Josh. I was in the middle of typing. Let's see. Thanks. Give me my theme music one more time. Let's see. What does the OBJ situation say about the Mike T injury? I don't think it says anything at all. And to be honest with you, look, the way that Chris Olave is playing makes me forget about Michael Thomas even being injured. Like the way that this guy's been playing, even like Callaway, he's been playing really well. Jarvis Landry, you've been dealing with an injury. But, I mean, these other guys been stepping up. Juwan Johnson. So it's not like that bad, I guess, because now, at first when Michael Thomas was out, you ain't really have nothing, right? But now you have a guy who's out there that's making plays, that's really making some noise in Chris Olave. So I don't feel the same way about the wide receiver room that I did last year. I'm upset that Michael Thomas is hurt again, but at least you're going to get some type of production at the wide receiver position with Chris Olave. And as time goes on, I think that Jarvis Landry, going to start feeling a little bit better, and he'll start making plays. Can't be that disappointment in Pete since he really didn't want this job position. Yeah, he didn't want it, and it just makes you wonder, like, should the New Orleans Saints should have been like, well, you know what, man, we're just going to try to go and get somebody else instead of, trying to convince him to stay on as the offensive coordinator. Maybe that's the reason why, maybe that's the reason why they don't really have that much passion behind it. Sean Payton did better our second strings last year. Well, it's because that's a really good head coach. And this is a guy in Dennis Allen still trying to figure out how or if he's a head coach at all. TJ, we've seen the worst. I feel like it can get better and learn one game at a time. Well, look, it has to start somewhere. E-Mac, I agree with you. And you basically just have to start chopping wood and taking it slow, and hopefully the tree falls, without any type of interruptions. Look, I get all that, right? But we don't really have time. We're in the regular season. So every game that you lose is detrimental to your playoff success. So they can't be around here, and we can't continue to have moral victories, right? Well, at least the offense looked pretty good, but they lost, right? Will Lutz, he kicked 160-yard field goal, but he couldn't make the other one. They lost, right? So all those moral victories that sound good, but honestly, it just sounds good because it makes us, think about jumping off the cliff. But in reality, it's not equating to wins. Like, nobody cares about how you win. Right? If you win by 1 point, who cares? The fact is you won. And right now, I mean, too many moral victories for me, for my liking. My Mighty Mouse, thank you very much for $5, says, if we get it together, what do you think our record could be? About 10-7. No more, no less than that, 10-7. You might be able to win 10 games if you can probably, go on a little bit of a winning streak. You helped me pose a question, TJ. What is going on with Mike? His current injury gives us nothing to depth. We know his previous ankle injury was serious. There has to be a mutual interest for OBJ visit. I mean, he's just dealing with another injury. I mean, but look, it's just hard for me to be sold. If we have a problem, if you have a problem with Michael Thomas and being injured, I understand that, you want him to be out there, you want him to play. But my biggest issue is, like, why would you be looking at Odell Beckham Jr. if you have a problem with Michael Thomas? Like, they both have been dealing with injuries over the last 2 years. So that's like swapping out one person that just had some injury issues as of late with another guy. So it's like, okay, I don't want this hurt guy over here, but I take this hurt guy over there because he seemed like he more healthier right now. Like, it doesn't make sense. Now, if you want to, talk to me about a guy that's able-bodied and has been playing really well, or, hasn't had a history of being hurt, then maybe we have a conversation. But it honestly, it's almost like, they looking at mirror of themselves, when it comes to the injury. So I don't understand, like, if a person talking about, man, I'm tired of Michael Thomas, man, let's go sign OBJ, huh? That's like saying, okay, man, I ain't gonna roll with this. Person over here. He got a broke right arm. I'm gonna go with this person over here with the broke left arm. I'm like they both of their arms still broke. Like it doesn't make that much sense. Mocha, thank you very much for $5. Say, I swear DA sounds like that narrator from Dragon Ball Z at the end of each episode. If this team wants to do anything, TJ, they need to be more disciplined. I know they say the penalties are the main reason, which is a big part, but the fumbles are even bigger. Like all that stuff, man, the penalties, the fumbles, all that stuff gets you beat. Hands down, like whatever way you want to slice it, cut it, divide it, or give it out, these have been issues. Thank you very much for $5. Says a healthy Kamara and Mike T should net at least 2 passing touchdowns per game with Andy Dalton, right? Yeah, I agree. I mean, being able to get the ball to Alvin Kamara in space, being able to rely on Michael Thomas with his catch radius. I mean, that is good. But also, like I said, I've seen some good things in the passing game with the guys that they have that didn't include Michael Thomas, which if Michael Thomas don't practice today, he's not going to play Sunday. It's just that simple. TJ, don't you think the Saints should give Dwayne Washington more carries? He has a similar running style like Latavius Murray. Yeah, I think they should, young blood, but when you do stuff like that, it's like you only have a few guys that you carry on game day for special teams. So if something was to happen to Dwayne Washington, like him getting injured or something like that, that's somebody that you lose on special teams, and you might have to rely on one of your guys in your starting rotation to play on special teams. And I know that's something that a team wouldn't want. Dwayne Washington is really good. He's talented. He runs the ball really well, but the Saints rely on him to play on special teams, and he's a key member of special teams, and you don't want to lose him. Because like I said, you end up having to play somebody that starts in the starting rotation, and playing on special teams, you can give them, you can jeopardize their health, and you're probably going to need them down the stretch. Mocha says, TJ, what's going on, Mocha? Thank you, man. Appreciate the donation also once again. Keeping it real, Who That Sports Podcast says, we are years removed from accepting moral victories, and we are not accepting that state of mind. Well, I don't think anybody, well, some people are, but I'm not. I can't accept this. Like some people are like, man, we got to be patient, this, that, and the third. This is a new coaching staff. No, it's not. Like I said, if this was Ron Daboll or even Doug Peterson, like I would understand, like if they came out the gate kind of struggling because it's a new coach regime. But at the end of the day, like Dennis Allen just moved from one cubicle to another cubicle. They're in the same building. He's, he has different responsibilities, but he knows everybody there. There's no awkwardness about this, right? You should be able to go to those guys and be able to tell them exactly how you feel, because y'all created that level of environment throughout the years that all of you were under Sean Payton. So I don't have that type of patience like some people have, because this isn't like a situation that, the Saints were just a terrible franchise that was picking in the top 5 and they needed a new head coach. Like this team was one game and a 49ers loss away from the playoffs. Regardless of how it looked, the Saints still had a shot at the playoffs, and they still were there to the very end. Like right now, they're playing as if, they're going to be eliminated from playoff contention by week 9. So I can't accept ineptitude, and I can't wait, and I don't feel like any Saints fan should accept that. Dwayne Washington ran through Devin White back to back. As Hardy called out all of the fans with a tweet a couple of days ago. Maybe he actually produced now. Well, look, I don't care if he does call out. I don't care if he calls out the fans. I don't care. Like, you playing like slow. I mean, look, you can be mad at anybody. Like, if you're gonna be mad at anybody, be mad at yourself. Be mad at yourself because you putting forth that poor performance. Don't get mad and talking about keep that same energy, because at the end of the day, like, bro, like if you're more focused on what somebody's saying about you on Twitter, like even me, if you care about what some podcaster in South Carolina thinks about you or says, like, then you missing a mark, man. Like stop trying to go to social media for validation and go out there and make some plays. Like, seriously, man, like we just basically just go by what we see. Like some of us, we'll probably like overreact and say some things, but my biggest issue is I like Deontay Hardy, and I think he's talented. I think he's a good human being, but I just think that he's not playing up to snuff. And if you feel some type of way about it, then maybe you need to do something different. You know, I mean, I don't get any pleasure out of saying that he's playing like a mere shell of himself. I think Odell Beckham will help us, even if he's coming as a decoy. He draws attention, opens up other opportunities. Man, we don't need Odell Beckham Jr. We don't. Okay, we don't need him. If you basically get Odell Beckham Jr. at this point, it's just for name's sake and the fact that he's from New Orleans. Like that's what this is. Like if you're like really clamoring as an organization or a fan or anything, I just feel like it's more about who he is versus what he can actually do for your team. Because every last one of those guys, 1, 2, and 3, respectively, Thomas, Landry, and Olave, all those guys can produce for you in a major way. So I just think that it's more about it's Odell Beckham Jr. versus what Odell Beckham Jr. can do. If this was last year, then I can be like, okay, fine, they need him. But as of today, they don't need him like that. And the game of the week are Overwatch 2, which drops on the 4th, and they're having some problems with servers because they're getting overload. And the other one, Let Loose and Secure Shadows Die. All right, Ramsey. Well, for those that don't know, Ramsey normally gives us the game of the week when he shows up. He's an avid video game player, and since I'd probably say about a year and a half, he's been giving us the video games that he chooses each week. That's a must play. So for all my gamers out there, like playing video games, those are some games to be on the lookout for. We got 303 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button. Thank y'all, man. 303 people watching this right now at 2:00 Central, 3:00 Eastern time, man. I appreciate that. And shouts out to everybody that's listening overseas in the UK and all across the, all in, in Canada and all around the world. Thank y'all. Another coach looks bad when plays don't work. The offense looked the same last year when Sean calling plays. Slim, I ain't gonna lie to you. That is a very good point. That is a very good point because as y'all remember, I dubbed Trevor Siemian the garbage man because for the same thing last year, they were waiting until the fourth quarter to make plays. That is a very, very good point. When they went on that 4-game skid, right? They just was like the defense was playing their little hearts out and the offense couldn't produce. They had to wait till the fourth quarter. So yes, absolutely right. Like that is a good point. And that's something I don't feel like people aren't paying attention to. The Saints had offensive woes last year, but I think, Slim, the biggest issue is a lot of people feel like the reason why they had those offensive woes is because they didn't have anybody. Like your number one receiver was Callaway, right? And then you had Hardy, who, he was in and out of the lineup. Then you had Kevin White out there. None of these guys could get separation. So I guess the difference is you got a bunch of guys that can get separation, that have gotten separation, and yet they still not getting them the football. So I think that's I guess that's what people are looking at last year versus this year. But that is a very good point, and he's absolutely right about that. Kamara should have just said we're 1-3 and got to play better and left it at that. Well, that's not who Alvin Kamara is. Alvin Kamara is a guy who is very frank. He's a guy that's very direct. He's a guy that's going to tell you like it is. He doesn't shy away from that. And that's something that we love about Alvin Kamara. So, we like the fact that he's so candid and open every time he has interviews. So I don't think that we can, just kind of fault him for being who he is because that's what we love about him. So we can't expect for him to turn it on and off, right? So, I mean, in a lot of ways, he's saying a lot of things that, we say among each other. Like the Saints are beating themselves, and, I don't think no other team is beating us this year. Seriously, we beating ourselves. I agree with that. Those are conversations we've been having all, on across all platforms. After 4 weeks, a lot of you want to clean house, fire DA, which tells teams you are throwing in the towel. Well, look, after 4 weeks, I don't think the guy should be fired, but I do feel like after 4 weeks, if you have some reservations about Dennis Allen, as being in over his head, I feel like it's justified because this is a guy, who came in, did not have a successful coaching record. And we can find reasons why that it wasn't, but that's just what it is. Because you have, once again, I mentioned this before, you have people out here that have never and will never give Jameis Winston an opportunity or a chance because he came to New Orleans when he was a starting quarterback who threw 30 interceptions in his last full starting job with his last team. So that's just what it is. Like, people aren't going to give him the same opportunities or leeway or wiggle room like they would give some of these other coaches, because we already know what he was as a head coach at his last stop. So people aren't going to give him a chance. But as far as just saying, man, get this bum up out of here right now after 4 games, I don't agree with that. But if you feel like maybe he in over his head, I feel like that's something that can be said and have a conversation about. But it shouldn't be like to a point where you just, outside with the sign that says, fire him or something like that. Not at this particular time, at least. Let's see. Jared says, I'm still confused on our team. If Ingram doesn't fumble versus Tampa, we win the game. Had Kamara not fumble versus Carolina, we win that game. Not going to mention the special teams. Well, like you said, Jerry, a lot of self-inflicted wounds here. A lot of self-inflicted wounds that they had that was prohibiting them from being successful. So if they can actually, try and clean those things up.
Clean up, everybody everywhere. Clean up, everybody do your share.
Yeah, they'll be okay. Fact, everything is in place, no excuses. Yeah, absolutely no excuses. The Saints need to incorporate Hardy much more than they are. The wide receivers have the worst separation rate per target throw in the league. Well, those guys are getting open. If you go catch the all 22, which I encourage people to go see, these guys are open. Well, at least they NFL open, I should say, and they're not getting the football. No, absolutely not to firing DA right now. No, you shouldn't fire him right now. I can't believe Murray left not good. Well, look, if you have an opportunity to be in a starting rotation of a team versus being a fourth string running back, maybe you dress, maybe you won't. I mean, what you gonna go with? All right, you gonna go with talking to your wife. You think you're gonna play today versus you gonna watch me on TV today? Look, guess what's one I'm going with? Baby, I want you to watch me on TV. All right? Watch me do my thing, all right? I don't want you to see me over there with the nail on. For those that may not know what that means the paraphernalia. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you over there with the same shirt on. I want you to be in full uniform. And this guy had opportunity to do that. So I'm not mad at him for that, and you shouldn't be mad at him for that. I mean, he decided to leave. I mean, I'm not in the business of forcing a guy to be somewhere he don't want to be. I think we just got to realize Sean Payton and Drew Brees not walking through that door, and this may be the new normal. That's what some people have to come to grips with. When Sean was here, when Drew was here, well, they're not here anymore, and there's a certain standard that those guys left behind, but those guys were special in their own right, and it's going to be hard to try to replicate that level of success that they had as coach and quarterback. So we are so spoiled as Saints fans, we think that the play of Drew Brees grows on trees and the coaching of Sean Payton grows on trees. But I guess we felt like we can rise above the situation because those guys left the organization in much better shape than what they found it. And we just expect for everybody to play like Drew and coach like Sean. But as you can see, that's not the case. And now we're a team that's just trying to figure it out. And we have to suspend our imagination and get away from the fact that we were a high-powered offense. And, we always seem to know what to do doing situational football more times than not. You have to look at, hey, man, we got new coaches, we got new players, and they got to figure it out. And it's, not those two legends that they had on the sidelines for all those years. ATJ, do you know what's up with David Onyemata? He's a great player, but where has he been? Also with Peyton Turner. Well, Peyton Turner right now seems like he hasn't really figured it out as an interior guy or a guy that's on the outside. He was a healthy scratch a couple weeks ago, which he was a first-round pick, and he was a healthy scratch. I mean, let that sink in. As far as David Onyemata, he's not playing at the level like in years past, but he's still doing a pretty decent job. We don't need him to do a decent job. We need him to do a really good job, but based on like the way he's playing, the way he's ranked, he's not the worst interior lineman. And I also just think that it's been the guys that the Saints have been playing against. Okay, Dalvin Cook, they pretty much neutralized him. Leonard Fournette, they basically neutralized him. So we know that Leonard Fournette likes to, run the ball up the gut, and he wasn't finding success with that. So you got to give him some credit when it comes to that. Maybe, you're not really seeing him like kind of stand out, but for the most part, he's doing his job because he's rated pretty high when it comes to the analytics. Soft play calling, and we have to make the playoffs and no penalties. Play like you're the best man on the field, be explosive. Yeah, man, this offense definitely has to help out this defense. This defense can't really make any mistakes. Like if you notice, like if anytime the defense makes a mistake, then all of a sudden they just lose. They basically have to play flawless in order for the team to win. And I just think that the defense has to be able to count on the offense to be able to make some plays. And you do that by executing and buying into what the play calling is, and not just looking at a list and saying, okay, we called this play 20-something times, we called this play 10 times, let's run the play that we ran 10. Like, you have to have a pulse on the game. And maybe that's something that maybe Pete Carmichael is dealing with, being able to understand the ebbs and flows of the game. And maybe that's an issue. And also, it's not just him, it's the players actually executing. And when they do execute, the plays are coming back, and they're putting themselves behind the 8 ball once again. So they got to be able to go out there and execute and allow this defense to play free. I feel like everybody's just a little bit too uptight, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to like the play calling, I feel like they're just trying to do all of the right things, which I have a problem with. You can't play like that. You got to be able to play your game. And right now, after listening to like everybody talk about self-inflicted wounds, shooting themselves in the foot, cleaning stuff up, I just feel like, your shortcomings are in the back of your mind, and it's not causing them to play free. It's like playing a sport when you got something on your mind, or trying to do something when your mind is roaming and you're frustrated about something. That's kind of what it's like. It's hard for you to really be dialed in. And I just think that some of the issues that the Saints have been faced with is causing these players not to be fully focused on the task, too busy trying to not make a mistake versus actually playing free. What part of South Carolina? I live in Myrtle. I live in Myrtle Beach too, man. I live in Myrtle Beach. I live in the Carolina Forest area. And I'm pretty sure you know what it is. Let's see. Hit that like button. Who that damn we drank when we was good. We definitely drinking now because we playing soft, and that's not our style. So Ryan, long story short, we're going to drink regardless, right? Hen then and hen now, right? That's what we on, right? So so it really don't matter. But yeah, I get what you're saying, man. Look, we've had better days, but let's not panic just yet. Everything should work out, and I believe in this team. They got the talent to be able to overcome it. And even if they don't, it's still who that over here. Also, most won't admit it, but we're really missing Armstead. I guess what you're saying, Jerry. He says he brought a nastiness to our O-line and made them better than what they really were. The leader that he was definitely being missed. Okay, we knew he was one of the captains on not only just on the offensive line, but the team. So yes, you are missing that, and I do feel like there's too many nice guys on this offensive line. Like Eric McCoy, I like him a lot, but he like I like him a lot, man. But maybe, like I said, maybe he has a switch, but just hearing him talk and all that, it's just kind of like, I mean, they're just a bunch of nice guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want your offensive linemen to be nice. You don't. Like, you want them to be nasty and physical. And I think that may change when Trevor Penning come along. Like, I believe in this dude. I think that once he comes back and he starts to learn about what he's doing, I think that that's probably going to be it. I think that you need like a tone setter on the offensive line. If you're going to have a bunch of nice guys, got to have that one guy. You got to have that one enforcer, right? So I think that's going to be Trevor Penning. If everything works out, if he ends up like tapping into that raw talent that he actually has, that's when I think you'll see the offensive line start to improve. Captain Cleanup. Guess we reached that part when I played that sound bite. No, not the Born to Clean Up. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's every time I hear that's the first thing I think about is that cleanup song. They still have the worst separation rate. Well, I mean, but they still catching passes though, you know. And John, to be honest with you, like the NFL, separation is like very like it's like man, the separation in college versus the separation in NFL is like night and day. Like most of the time, you're gonna have a cornerback draped up and dripped out all on you. You know, like you're gonna have that. And that was the issue last year. They couldn't catch the contested catches. Now you have receivers that can. I think Michael Thomas was leading the league when it comes to like contested catches. I think he had like 8 total before he went down. So regardless of how tight the coverage is, these guys are making plays. Oh snap! Hit him with the bunny. That's tough. Let's see, man. That special teams has been atrocious. Jerry giving a shout out to Slim South. TJ, a lot of the nation really wants to clean house of coaches, players, trainers. If they're doing that, then that's just, I don't want to call them dumb, but that's just ridiculous. That's just a complete overreaction. If you talking about cleaning the house after 4 weeks of football, not being happy, fine. But talking about they need to fire him and cut losses right now, nah. The Saints won't get it together until after game 8, just as I predicted. Well, if you ain't getting it if you getting it together around week 8, then it's too late. All right, you might as well just go ahead, pack up, and go home. And I'm going to stand by this again. Jameis Winston needs to sit out for a year, reconstruct his deal next season to see if he's healthy. He might be injury prone right now. Don't risk it. Well, look, it might happen. It might happen if Andy Dalton start playing well and the Saints start to get off a string of wins. It's going to be hard for the Saints to go back to Jameis Winston. And I think Jameis Winston knows that. LOL with the Barnett video. When my kids were younger, I played that and we went to work cleaning the house. Yeah. As Paxton would say, not clean up, but Neen up. Neen up. Yeah, but that's the clean. I think that's everybody's like, song with their kids, right? The cleanup song. Like it's something that's been inherited over the course of time. Like that was the song when we were kids. It's kind of like the nursery rhymes, right? Like Little Miss Muffet or Jack and Jill going up the hill. Like it's certain things like it just carries on. I'm sick of this talk of getting OBJ and Fields. We already got the talent to win. Our problem, we get fixed, buying, added more talent. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, I just think that people are just trying to put cologne on the musty body right now. Like this body is musty right now. It needs some soap and some water. You know what I'm saying? It's not fully clean until the zest fully clean. You get me? Like you got to clean this body up, right? You ever, went outside, worked all day. You know what I'm saying? You got the funk of the day on you. You're smelly, you're musty. Like, shoot, you got to go take a bath, man. You can't be like, man, I'm about to put this cologne on. You know what you're going to smell like? You're going to smell like Valentino and musk, all right? You're going to smell like Kenneth Cole Black and musk, okay? You're going to smell like red, cold red, and musk, all right? That's what you're going to smell like, Tom Ford and musk. That's what you're going to smell like. For all my ladies out there, Daisy perfume, you're going to smell like Daisy and musk. So you can't fix that. Like, oh, let's just add another. Like, this isn't Madden, right? Let's just add another wide receiver. Let's just give insult to injury. Like, you having issues getting the ball to the guys that you have. So why in the world would you want to get out there and try to add somebody else that you can't throw the ball to? You have three miserable people. Now you're gonna have 4. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. Thank y'all for being here. If I be ripping him, makes fun of me even one time I'm out, he better not start calling me Trevor Pudding. Well, look, he might show up and call you that. Cook Pancake, Peyton Turner. Yeah, man. Cook Pancake. That's a good one right there. Yeah, Peyton Turner is looking a little bit like a scrub right now in this part of his career. Sean and Drew were the best we ever had, but we act like they walked on water. Sean wasted 3 of Breeze's best years. Remember the historically bad defenses. I agree with that, but here's the thing, Sean. I don't know. Like, let me ask you this. keeping it real. Let me ask you this: how old are you exactly? How old are you exactly? I want to know, because the thing about it is, they did walk on water. I'm just being real. They did walk on water in comparison to what this organization and what this franchise was before they got here. They walked on water, and a lot of, like, if you were a Saints fan and you seen all these years of losing and never making a playoffs and being trash and being terrible, and then all of a sudden, like, you get a coach and a quarterback that won more times than they actually lost, then yeah, like they did. Like, man, in the eyes of the Who Dat Nation, Sean Payton and Drew Brees are like holy deities. And they should be, because once again, like, this team was terrible. But, like, when it comes to like being a voice of reason, when you're talking about these type of things, yeah, and most times, like, yeah, but like, you can be like, yeah, like, they weren't all that, but yes, they were. Yeah, in comparison to what this team actually was back then, yes, they were all that. Because this franchise has been around since 1967. Since 1967, and they have been terrible more times than not. It wasn't until these two individuals got here that we had any type of voice. Like, for us to just be sitting up here talking about this team. Like, before these guys got here, nobody was really just checking for New Orleans Saints like that. And we weren't really truly jumping out of the window like we are right now. Like, the confidence and the ability to believe in this team, those two guys instilled that inside of you. So yeah, they were. That's all I wanted. Like they were all that, And people, like, I can understand why people are like comparing everybody to them, because look, I feel like this is not like the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So back, I'm saying, if you look at their coaches, right? I don't think they had more than, how many coaches that they had? Maybe like 3 or 4 in their entire, like, franchise history. Like, they had Chuck Noll for all those years, and then after Chuck Noll, they had Bill Cowher, and then after Bill Cowher, they had Mike Tomlin. Like, and, you had I think they had a coach before Mike Knowles, if I'm not mistaken. But Chuck Knowles, excuse me, Chuck Knowles. But it's not like that, right? You had like all those great coaches, you had all those great players. You had like Mean Joe Green, you had you had Terry Bradshaw, right? You had Franco Harris. Like, you have all these guys, like, you can compare these guys to, And then if you start looking at more of the modern era, you know what I'm saying? You had like Rashad Mendenhall, you know what I'm saying? You had, you had all these guys, Willie Parker. Like, you had, come on, man. Like, the Saints don't have a rich tradition like that. They don't have a rich tradition. So we really start, like, we basically playing catch up right now. So that's the reason I feel like why a lot of Saints fans look at these guys in that way, because to me, the Saints might start getting better players, but you're going to start seeing, like, the story being written about the team around the time when Sean Payton and Drew Brees got here. That's the reason. That's about as clear as I can make it, because of what these guys actually represented for this organization. How many of y'all actually watch the games? If y'all do, why are y'all blaming Jameis for the slow start when the issue is actually play calling? Yeah, you got to be able to do some of the things that these guys do well. And if you're not, then how would you expect for these guys to succeed? Let's see. I've been paying attention to the Eagles, and my guy Chauncey is not a full-time safety. Dennis Allen was definitely getting the best out of him. Yeah, but we'll see, man. We'll see. Mariota married in my bank head grandma told you. Let's see. TJ, the refs know exactly when to call a penalty to sabotage the game. What do you think? Absolutely. I've said this before. Tap, I said that same statement. I feel like, I don't think that they're going into the game like, okay, man, we want the Saints to lose today. But I do feel like if they know, they go into the game trying to cover that point spread, I think they have something to do with it. Oh, the point spread, where they had them at 2.5. I think that's when they started throwing the flags. I think they try to protect Vegas' bottom line. Now you got me if you saying, okay, they about to go out here and make this team lose. You got me with that. But I do think that they make those calls because they know more times than not, because these teams are so professional, it might be hard for them to be able to make up for the play, the call that they made. You talking front office now, TJ? Yeah. The Saints haven't gotten blown out so far. That shows they aren't far off. My Bucks aren't going to be as dominant, in my opinion. Yeah, like it's a good thing that they're not getting blown out, and it's a good thing that they try to fight to the very end. But I mean, come on, man. Like I'm just tired of these games. Like I wouldn't mind seeing a Saints game where I ain't have to worry about the Saints if they're going to win or lose around the third or fourth quarter. Right? I would like to be comfortable and being able to do halftime shows and talking about some of the things the Saints did in the first half, or heck, even possibly do a halftime show where the Saints actually going into the half with the lead. I mean, it's been a while since I actually seen that. So, I mean, it would be nice to see that. Drew and Sean has some other great guys that don't get even any credit. Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, but the thing about it is we know when it all comes down to it, when they start talking about the NFL, they always talk about coach and quarterback. Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, right? Don Shula, Dan Marino. That's what they do. Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. That's what they do. They can join these coaches. I mentioned Chuck Knowles and Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach and Tom Landry. Like they always can join the quarterback and coach together. Not to say that those players aren't as important. You're absolutely right. But that's just the way that the history writes these narratives, right? It's about the story of the quarterback, and it's the, I even go a little deeper if you like offense. Don Coryell and Dan Fouts, right? With those San Diego Charger teams with Kellen Winslow, right? They had an offense called Air Coryell. So they always can join the head coaches with the quarterbacks. That's just the way it is. I mean, of course, we know about, the Lance Moores and the Robert Meachams and the Marcus Colstons, right? And the David Thomases and the great offensive line, Jemai Bushrod and Jonathan Goodwin and Jari Evans and, Zach Street. I mean, we know all these different guys, right? That helped this team. John Stinchcomb. I mean, we know about the supporting actors, but we know that the quarterback and coach get most of the shine when the historians talk about the game. TJ, they can be nice off the field. Exactly. Let's get some tough guys on that offensive line. Sure, we haven't gotten blown out yet, but the team we played so far haven't been that good either. That's pretty much. That's a good point. TJ, the Pelicans looking good this year. Yeah, I mean, they look good against the Chicago Bulls. Watched a little bit of the game. I think the facilitated looked really good. I think that Zion Williamson, he looked pretty explosive during the time he was there. And I like the shots from three. I think that if they can keep on doing these things, I think that you'll probably see them in one of the top 5 seeds in the West. If everybody can stay healthy, I think they can be a top 5 team in the West. Hey, TJ, I just heard a Mike Tomlin, and he makes me want to run through a brick wall for him, and I don't even bow. Yeah, Mike Tomlin is a really good coach. I'm just interested to see if the Steelers going to go in a different direction in the next couple of years. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Mike Tomlin as the head coach of the Saints if things didn't pan out and some things, some stars get aligned. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But, yeah, he is a very good coach. He's a guy that is well respected around the league. Players respect him. GMs respect him. Organizations respect him. So, yeah, he's a really good coach. I mean, he's never had a losing season in his entire time as the head coach of the Steelers, which is unbelievable. Bradshaw was a 50% passer, by the way. Yeah, but at the same time, you got to put it into context, Carter. This was during a time where you can actually, take a guy head off of going across the middle. So throwing the ball 50% of the time and completing that wasn't that bad, to be honest with you, because it basically was it was basically a survival of the fittest or something like that, Hunger Games, if you will, when this guy was actually playing. Some of the rules that allow guys like Geno Smith to throw for 77% and Drew Brees throwing for some of those 70% completion percentages, have a lot to do with how lax the rules are now when it comes to playing the quarterback position. I mean, back in those days, I mean, I know that they played on the same team, but a guy like Mel Blount can go across the middle and just take your head clean off. And, you know, going on, like being a slot receiver, like that was a suicide mission. So him throwing 50% of his passes, we got to put this thing into context. You know, you got to put this thing into context. Like saying, okay, he threw 50% of his passes, right? You know, but this is 1974, 1975, you know. It was a different NFL. It's like I don't know, holding Sammy Baugh like accountable, like for having 13 touchdowns, right? And be like, man, all he threw was 13 touchdowns. Well, they ran the ball more times when Sammy Baugh was, you know, the quarterback. You know, they were running the football. So of course he's gonna have like 13 touchdowns. So you got to put these things into context, right? If we're doing this, with the I don't my production manager needed me. But, you know, if he was actually doing this in 2022, then I'd be like, man, what the heck is going on? But, I mean, that was in the 70s, you know, anything went. I'm going to read a few more. Now I got to get up out of here, folks. He says, we need to get Hill and Hardy both more involved in the offense. We're converting long downs over the past few years by throwing tight end screens to our blocking tight ends, but we haven't given Hill a chance to. Yeah, look, I think that you got to get Taysom Hill and Hardy more involved in the game. I don't understand why. Every time Taysom Hill gets the ball, positive things happen. So to me, I think that you need to give him some more plays, maybe get a little bit more creative. But what's happening to TJ popping in from work? But my early prediction, I had the Saints losing this game to the Seahawks, coming from London. But at the same time, I had them coming in this game at 3-1, but I was wrong. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably was wrong at this particular point. I know I was. You know, I thought the Saints would be in a better position right now. But that's just the way it goes. You know, you never know how it's going to pan out. They can thank T.O. and Sean Taylor for that rule change. He used to kill receivers over the middle. And I think we all remember that hit Sean Taylor put on a punter during the Pro Bowl. You know, but rest in peace to Sean Taylor, because he definitely would have been a Hall of Famer if he would have, you know, if he didn't have that tragedy happen, you know. And finally, we got Jameis Winston turned down the Colts private jet at the last minute and denied Tomlin after the Saints chased that Browns quarterback. Yeah, I mean, but I just think that the Saints told Jameis what they were going to do. I think he understands the business aspect of it. And I think that, you know, after that, he decided to come back because he felt like the Saints were in his best interest. He felt like he had a chance to be a starter, and he was. So I think it was a smart decision. Lattimore versus Metcalf. TJ, are you ready for that drink? No, I think that Marshawn Lattimore is going to have a good outing. I'm not going to allow one bad game that he had, you know, just completely erase my mind at the fact that he's been playing lights out more times than not this entire season. I don't feel like this is an indictment on who he is as a cornerback. I think he's one of the best. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody here. I ask that you hit the like button on your way out. Previous episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. And we're also a part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. And once again, for those that may have tuned in a little late, we will be having a SOTS podcasting seminar that will be available. We got 3 classes that are available. It's going to be for each class, there's going to be 10 participants. If you want to learn more about podcasting, if you want to learn more about helping your podcast grow, if you want to learn more about some of the practices that I use in order to help the podcast, game happen. Also, you know, just broadcasting experience that I have working here at the radio station. So I want to be able to give you those tools. If you're interested in that, I'll make sure to send you the information on how you can get yourself signed up. I know I have some feedback, from individuals that are signing up already. So still got a few more spots left. So hit me up, email stateofthesaints@gmail.com, and I'll let you know how you can be a part of that for all the people that's thinking about starting a podcast and individuals that have a podcast already may want to, you know, try to tweak a few things. All right. So thank you all so much. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?